Preparing to live stream the meeting to YouTube. And Charlie, you and I are going to figure out how to simultaneously do YouTube and Facebook.
The one thing you can do is you can go onto Facebook and just say, I'm watching this
meeting
now, and give the YouTube link. So I'll do that. But that's only to the small number of people I know. But if a number of people did that, it would
Yeah.
get out a bit more.
So I should go to Facebook and put up the link, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that now because it's 11 a.m.
Okay.
next week.
You can suggest to people online that they do it.
Actually, though, the invitation to the event is there and it has the link.
Yeah. No, but this is a way of letting your friends know that this is going on.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it is 11 a.m. and we have seven participants. Good morning to all these names. We have Tony Toledo. Wow. What a treat. An unexpected treat. And we have Barry, and we have a few phone numbers that I don't recognize. And we have Kevin, and we're ready to get started. So good morning, everybody.
We're waiting for the YouTube video to come up, but it hasn't come up.
It's already there.
I'm online and it's not there.
It's slightly delayed. So
This is Mary Lynn. So anyway, I'll go back to the DCB and try clicking again because it's not coming up.
We are live streaming on YouTube.
Okay, I'm not getting it. And I've gotten it every Sunday morning for months, so let's see what's happening.
I've got it, so it should be there.
Alrighty.
So anyway, good morning, everybody. So glad to see you. And we're so excited about this program. Two new friends of Community Church. I want to introduce you all to Leah Morris. We have Leah and I have a mutual friend named Aileen Vance who wrote an amazing kick-ass song, which is called Let Justice Roll Down, that I recorded some 20 years ago. And it has grown legs a little bit, and it got to the ears of Leah Morris, and she recorded a beautiful version of it. And through that, I got a chance to check out some of Leah's other online presence, and it just has some very beautiful singing and writing and performing. And I immediately said, we have to have Leah on Community Church's morning Sunday broadcast. So here we are, and we'd like to welcome you warmly to Community Church of Boston. Leah Morris, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dean, for the invitation. And I love all of these connections that are happening, right? These connections is the perfect word for it, that none of us could have orchestrated. Just it was the timing was right, and we were in the right place, and we said yes to the thing. And you said yes 20 years ago to that song, and I said yes to it in January, and it brought us together with Eileen. And I'm over the moon grateful for all of the gifts and bounty of this time. Speaking of which, this song that I'm about to sing was born this morning, and it came from an invitation from a new friend, cantor Micah Hendler, who invited me to watch his temple, his Shabbat service. And he shared a song, and the lyric, I don't have to look like you to love you, just really, it struck my heart. And a song was born from that spark. So thank you, Micah, for the inspiration. Thank you, Dean, for the invitation. And if you'd like to sing along, the refrain is welcoming. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. You're just another someone in this world. It's just another planet, our sweet blue pearl, floating in the somewhere it's all unknown, in this great mystery we all call home. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. I'm just another traveler on this road, learning as I'm turning, shaking off the load, growing in the darkness, striving toward the light, just another lover of a fleeting life. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like me. One more time. I don't have to look like you, I just have to look deep. I don't have to see like you to see that you're just like, see that you're just, I see that you're just like me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Beautiful song, Leah. And welcome, everybody. I've got a candle here. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to light it. Get us going here. Get us going, get us together. And get us thinking about being all over the planet, but being here together in unity, in harmony. So this is the little churchy portion of our Sunday morning, where I tell you about a few things. We've been having several wonderful acquisitions to our library. This is somebody I've been trying to get to speak here. It's John Nichols. John writes for The Nation, and this is a book about Henry Wallace, the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party, Henry Wallace, enduring legacy, anti-fascist, anti-racist politics. And this is of interest because Henry Wallace spoke at Community Church a number of times after his presidential bid in 1948 when he ran against Truman and Dewey, a third-party ticket. And I look forward to reading this book. It's a new acquisition in our growing library, and hopefully we'll get him to speak. I'm working on it. Maybe Cole Harrison from Mass Peace Action could help me with that one. He had John speak here at a conference. Here's another one by another former speaker at Community Church. His name was Smedley Butler. War is a Racket, Smedley Butler. And there is the Boston area New England Veterans for Peace chapter that's called the Smedley Butler Brigade. And this would be a wonderful book to read from. I got it for $5 online. It's not the original, one of the original tracts, but he read it. If you don't know about Smedley Butler, find out about him. He was a Marine leader, and he talks about all these invasions of Central America that he was involved in for the United States, and he said it was just a racket for corporate enterprise. I've got this is a whole series of books for young people on African American figures, and this one in particular is of interest, and I started reading it. It's about W.E.B. Du Bois, who just by coincidence also spoke a number of times at Community Church. It might have been at Symphony Hall when we were meeting in Symphony Hall, and 2,000 people might come and hear different very well-known orators of the day. Anyway, I show you this book to also let you know about a wonderful upcoming speaker for our annual W.E.B. Du Bois address, which happens near the end of February, usually the last Sunday of February. Her name is Margaret Kimberly, and she is an incredible historian and an author. She writes for the Black Agenda Report. Margaret Kimberly will be joining us towards the end of March. Now, this is a kind of like a more personal little addition to our library, and these are two books. One is written by my uncle and aunt. Their names are Ella Shohat and Robert Stam, and this book is called Unthinking Eurocentrism, and I've become very interested and especially in Ella. I mean, Uncle Bob is my mother's youngest brother, and he's a professor at NYU, and his wife is an Iraqi Jew, meaning that her family left Iraq in 1949 or 1950. Ella was born in Israel, where she was that weird paradox of being, I think they call it a Mizrahim, which is an Arab Jew. And it's just the most fascinating, most complicated and difficult story about a diaspora to a place where they were not very welcome and where they were second-class citizens. Eventually, Ella's family moved to New York, where she still lives now and teaches at NYU and is presently in Berlin. Actually, she and my Uncle Bob, and I've just reconnected with them because of Zooms. We have a Sunday evening Zoom meeting, and my mom at age 94 joins us, and her living brothers, there's 3 of them, and her living sister. We've never done this before, and it's really just a wonderful advantage to Zoom. And this is another book that has an article by Ella Shohat, Stories of Personal Transformation, Reclaiming Judaism from Zionism. And Ella's story in here talks about the most amazing little quip that I'll share with you, and it is that she and her and Iraqi Jewish people have taken the song that we love, which is called "By the Waters of Babylon," where we lay down and wept when we remember thee, O Zion. So their version of that song is "By the waters of Zion, where we lay down and wept when we remember thee, O Babylon," because they'd come from Iraq and they were Jews in Baghdad, and Jews all over the Middle East lived and coexisted with Muslims and Christians, and then 1948 happened and everything turned around. Okay, next book. This is called Mount Rushmore, An Icon Reconsidered. And I mention this because we have on our wall a plaque that is by the same sculptor whose name is Gutzon Borglund, who did Mount Rushmore, and he also did a plaque which is a tribute to Sacco and Vanzetti. And this, I mentioned, I want to read that book. I mention it because that plaque up there came to us by way of an amazing man who passed away. His name was Robert Datilio. He's recently passed, and we will have at Community Church's Zoom, through Community Church's Zoom, a memorial for Bob Datilio. He was the world's unquestionably eminent scholar, most eminent scholar on the Sacco and Vanzetti case. And this plaque on our wall commemorates Sacco and Vanzetti and has a quote from Vanzetti from his last speech before he was condemned, or before he was condemned to be executed. So I just tell you that to just invite you, if you're interested in joining us for Bob Datilio's commemoration and tribute. We will, some of the speakers, Michael Dukakis, former governor and presidential candidate, will join us. Dukakis was also very interested in the Sacco Vanzetti case and had a lot of work with Bob Datilio. Another one is named Judge Peter Agnes, who is Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and several other friends of Bob's. He had just an amazing diversity of people, and as a kind of the administrator of Community Church, it's been my incredible sadness, but also honor to see the number of calls from his friends that have come in to get information, and realize that this man had contacts in the music world. He was a stage manager at Sanders Theater for some years, and he was arts manager for several different orchestras in town. His wife was a dancer. He was deep into dance. He was deep into all these academic pursuits around Sacco and Vanzetti and around early Italian anarchism, and around a photographer he was very obsessed with, whose name was Tina Modotti, who is an Italian photographer who lived in Mexico for a few years before she died very young, but made an incredible impression, hung out with Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera in Mexico. So that memorial is March 7th. Next, I want to tell you that what a relief and joy it is to tell you that our new newsletter is out. And if you would like a paper version of the newsletter, it tells about our next 2 months of programs, both Sunday programs as well as some weeknight events. Let us know if you want a paper version. Give us your street address in the chat, or your email address. We'll send you one by email. So that's an incredible relief. Finally, I want to just share a quick song. No, not finally. Penultimately, I want to tell you about 2 anniversaries. The first one, 14th of February, 1981, exactly 40 years ago. They're commemorating, this is a village in El Salvador that I visit at least twice a year in normal times, not under pandemic, but it's called El Higueral. On the 14th of February, 1981, an enormous U.S.-funded military operation happened, and there was a huge massacre in the village of El Higueral. They fled into the mountains and the hills, and more of them died and starved, especially the old and the young, and were in exile in the mountains and hills for 9 years before they were able to come back to their village. I soon met them after that. It was in 1991, 10 years after the massacre had happened, and took a trip there that changed my life in many ways. If you want to hear the story, there's a song on YouTube of mine. Go Dean Stevens in YouTube, and the song is called Stories. And I almost can't perform it anymore because I just get so moved and by what happened to these people, and the beauty of my love for the people in that village that survived, and my admiration for their resiliency and their industriousness. In the beginning of a friendship of 30 years that I've maintained with trips and to these villages. Any one of you who are interested in taking a trip with me on, I usually go in February and in August. Be in touch, and I can tell you more about it. So that's one anniversary. The other anniversary is of the passing of Bob Blue, and I mentioned that was 20 years ago. Right around now, because I want to sing you a song. Bob Blue was a wonderful children's performer, second grade school teacher, and there happens to be this song, if I can put it up on my screen, that is about what we're talking about here today. And I'm going to find it and sing it for you, because I love the music of Bob Blue. Let's see, is it on my Chrome? No, is it on my Safari? Oh, found it! This is kind of by way of telling Leah about Bob Blue. If you haven't heard of him, he wrote a bunch of, he was willing to take on grown-up topics in the form of kids' songs. And here's one of the best examples. I wish I had a golden retriever to sleep in my bedroom and lick up my face. My parents say someday we may get one, but first we need money to buy our own place. They say our house belongs to our landlord. He owns his own house, but he also owns ours. We pay him rent, and he takes vacations and owns a jacuzzi and 2 fancy cars. My landlord says we can't have a garden, we can't have a swing set, we can't have a pet. But when he wants, he goes to Bermuda. Whatever he dreams of, my landlord can get. And yesterday, the 3rd of the month, we were late with the rent, so we dropped off the check. We rang the bell, but he was outside, asleep in his hammock attached to his deck. We stopped, we parked, we ate at... Oops, here goes. And on a chair, a golden retriever looked up when she saw us and started to whine. My landlord woke, and as they were talking, I watched that retriever and wished he were mine. And in the car, my parents were talking. My mother was angry, my dad was depressed. They say the rich get richer and richer, the rest get to work while the rich get to rest. We stopped, we parked, we ate at McDonald's. My dad had a salad, my mom had a Coke. They sat, they sighed, there wasn't much talking, and nobody laughed when I told him a joke. My parents say they both want a garden. I think they deserve one, they really work hard. And I deserve a golden retriever. We should have a house and we should have a yard. When I grow up, I live in a lean-to, I live in an igloo, I live in a tent, but I won't pay my money to landlords who own the retriever while I pay the rent. Bob Blue presente. We still have Bob Blue reunion concerts to remember this amazing songwriter and school teacher and educator by. Leah Morris, take it away.
Hey, Dean. I hadn't heard that song before. I appreciate you sharing it. Reminds me of my friend Andres Arguero, who also is unabashed and so adept at sharing human perspectives from all, we all are just people, whether we are older people, younger people, and we're all having our experience here, and they're all valid, and they're all worth at least attempting to understand one another's experience and where we're coming from. So this is a song I was invited to sing harmonies on David Roth, if you're familiar with him. He's a songwriter, on one of his recordings, and the refrain is, "Will you come home to your heart?" And I just felt compelled, or also invited, but not by any physical person. I felt invited by the muse to throw some verses between the refrain. So this is a David Roth song that I've kind of surgically altered. What are you searching for? What are you trying to find? It's so near. It's right here. What is your true desire? And what can't you live without? Look around. Nothing is lost, and you can be found. Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your own heart? You may feel you're lost at sea, or perhaps that the world is on fire. It's alright. There is a light that still shines in the darkest of nights. Just come home. Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your own heart? Will you sing that refrain with me? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your own heart? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come home to your heart? Will you come home? Will you come home? Will you come welcome home to your own heart. What are you searching for? Thank you. And I want to right now acknowledge and lift up my parents-in-law, Malvina und Georg. Ich habe euch schon gesagt, wie dankbar wir sind, dass du uns so liebevoll angenommen habt. And now I get to say to all of those present how much I appreciate my in-laws for opening their home and their hearts and welcoming us when we were in a time of need. And I appreciate that all of us have that opportunity to have our hearts open, to recognize that the world is our shared home. And sometimes we have a very unique opportunity to welcome one another in various ways. And so thank you to the UU of Boston, to Dean, for your welcome today. Thank you, Malvina and Georg, for your welcome. This is a song that Eileen Vance welcomed Dean and me to sing by writing it, but also by having her heart open and being willing to share these words and this melody with the world. And there's an opportunity for you to sing along. So when we get to that refrain, all the music in the world gets better when we share it. There is no freedom, the wise man said, let justice roll down. When the poor cry out for shelter and bread, let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary? Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Hatred will never drive out hate. Let love roll down, roll down. Remember our hearts were made to be great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Let's do that refrain again. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. May our voices ring out louder than the guns. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. All together. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. We'll let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step, one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but the dream lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. We'll let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Let's sing that again. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. Sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. Sounds like a whisper. Love rolling down like a mighty stream. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Two beautiful songs. David Roth. I need to be in touch with David Roth. We need us some David Roth on this church Zoom soon.
Yeah.
Soon. I would like to call up to this microphone our board member and very active program committee member. His name is Ed Pazanese, and he is going to introduce our speaker today, Maria Christina Blanco. Ed, he's right here with me. Take it away.
My notes. I'll take off my mask. Good morning. As Dean said, I'm Ed Pazanese, and it's my privilege to introduce Maria Christina Blanco. I've known Maria Christina Blanco's work in the community for many years, and had the privilege of working together in Family Screen Together, which I'm the director of. Maria Christina was a staff member for 2.5 years, where she was able to work effectively with parents, board, and funders, telling our story by writing effective proposals. It's my privilege to introduce Maria Christina Blanco. I'll tell you a little bit about her background briefly. Maria Christina Blanco lives in Jamaica Plain, where I do, in the same neighborhood. She's a Bolivian American mother, healthcare worker, and organizer who has been engaged in human rights and social and economic justice activism for over 25 years experience. She currently works as the grants and fiscal sponsorship manager with the Center for Economic Democracy in Boston and serves on the governing board of Boston's Community Leadership Academy. It's my privilege to introduce Maria Christina Blanco to share her thoughts about housing is the cure toward the human right to housing in 2021. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Ed. And it's been so great to be able to reconnect with you in this way. Ed runs a wonderful community arts program that's based on the concept of inclusion and bringing folks together across, disability and non-disability identities to do art and sometimes public art projects together. And so we've worked on, I've had the pleasure of working on some wonderful art projects that have sometimes resulted in some public art in Jamaica Plain. I think there's one, a rain barrel that we painted that's in one of the community gardens near Stony Brook. And so there's some hidden history around there as you walk our neighborhood that it's a symbol of the connections between us. And also really have enjoyed so much being able to be introduced to Leah's music. I hadn't, been really aware of of her as a performer, or her body of work. And this has been wonderful to listen to and so moving. And so I think in the spirit of the opening and the reading and lifting up, members of our community who are walked on to the next level. I'm remembering today. So what made me think of this was one of the songs that Leah performed reminded me a little bit of Pat Humphries' songs, "Swimming to the Other Side." My daughter went to the Rafael Hernandez school, as I believe maybe your son did as well, Dean. And
No. He went to Kids Arts, but he didn't go to the Hernandez. We tried to get him in bilingual school, but he went to the Mission Hill School.
I see. Yes. So my daughter went to a bilingual public elementary school, and there's a music teacher there who's a figure in our community, in the local arts community, who Ed's worked with as well. Rosalba Solis, retired now, but anyway, she used to have them do school plays every year, and often they would be cultural. There was actually one year that we learned about the whole life story of Rafael Hernandez, a Puerto Rican composer and veteran, and the person who's the school is named after, but they were all different themes and different cultures that the kids were exposed to through music. And so one I remember really well being so emotional with it. It's such a touching song, Pat Humphries, "Swimming to the Other Side." And it's a folk song, American folk song, and so yeah, I remember Maya's class, singing that in a school play. And so I want to remember a young man who when we were introducing ourselves, we were all kind of just introducing ourselves and talking about our kids and how old they were. And so I mentioned my daughter's gonna be turning 21 in a few days, and that's kind of a milestone for her. And this past year, one of her classmates, whose birthday was just a couple days before hers, his life was lost to gun violence here in Boston. And so I want to lift up the name of Bolivar Soto, and I can well remember him singing this song as a child in the school play. I can remember all the Valentine's days that I used to help my daughter sign the cards, to her class. And so this classmate is no longer with us. And in November, he was taken from us much too soon. And so it's always it's always a wonderful tradition to to speak the names of those that have been part of our lives, and that in various circumstances are no longer with us, but to hold them with love in our hearts. And so that wasn't really what I came here to speak about, but the music has been really, really moving. And so I will I am also real happy that I got to join you on Valentine's Day. This is a great time to just be uplifted, by talking about the kind of things the Community Church of Boston brings, and reflecting on how we can love our neighbor in the Christian tradition. That's an important theme, and so how can we be good neighbors? And so I think that it's very natural coming to talk about housing justice, and what does it mean to show love and to be a good neighbor? And again, thanks, Leah, for your words as well as your music, about opening, making space for people, whether it's in our hearts or in our homes. So I have to say I'm still getting used to these Zoom presentations. Definitely used to talking in a much more interactive way where, you know, people are able to go back and forth and have a dialogue. But I also am, I want to make space if they're able to join me. There may be a current tenant leader at City Life who may be able to join this Zoom, and we'll look out for her if so. Ms. Vicky Siggers, who's a leader of the Advanced Property Management Tenants Association, but we're not sure. She has some family responsibilities that she's been attending to this weekend. So so I'm going to go ahead and go through and you know, share with you guys in your faith community what's going on, you know, in this pandemic moment that we're in terms of housing justice and how we can all be good neighbors to each other and support everyone's right to housing as a human right. And so there's a few different aspects to that that I can go through, and I wanted to share some pictures. So I'll be sharing my screen shortly, you know, showing the story of what's been going on and what the struggle currently is. And there's a short video where you can hear tenant leaders speaking for themselves. So I'll just say in the description, I think it may have been a little bit grammatically confusing the way it was described in the Facebook event. I'm Maria Christina Blanco. As Ed said, I'm a longtime Jamaica Plain resident, and I'm a former community organizer with City Life Vida Urbana, which is very well known and almost 50-year-old housing justice organization that's been in Jamaica Plain and that's been a center of you know, resistance against displacement and working class organizing for justice in many ways for, you know, the past several decades. So I was an organizer there from 2011 to 2016, but I now do other work, and so I'm not a current tenant leader, and I'd hoped to co-present with a current tenant leader, but we'll hear from folks who are doing that work now later in my presentation. And I think before I start sharing my screen, though, I'm inspired by all this music and by Dean, you know, getting in on the act, that I think I might share a song a cappella. So that if I can remember the words. So, you know, the song that you shared, Dean, that was from, who is the composer again?
His name is Bob Blue. He passed away about 20 years ago.
Okay.
But his memory and his legacy is very much alive. We do occasional Bob Blue concerts, just remembering his songs. There's a lot of people, especially in a group called People's Music Network, that remember Bob very fondly.
Excellent. Right. So this is again another musician that I'm just being introduced to, and you know, such a well-crafted song there, and you know, the way that it's yeah, exactly, the way that it's talking about, you know, it's talking about a very radical proposition, you know, that everyone should you know, everyone should have the right to own and control their own, you know, living situation. You know, it's just goes completely against the structure that we currently have set up, you know, in the U.S. and in a lot of the world, where you know, there's private property and you know, there's landlords and tenants, and it's very different from the vision that you know, folks who are in the City Life community dream of, and I believe it's very different from the traditions that that we all, you know, if you go back far enough, you know, whatever your heritage is, you know, I believe that there are traditions of providing for everyone and of the dignity of every human being, and people having access to a safe and dignified place to live as a right, as a birthright, as a member of the community. So in a similar way, the song that I wanted to share, it's very linked to real stories of what housing really means. And not as just a slogan of, we have, the right to housing, or, this concept of human rights, but that, for a child, it means, being able to have a pet or keep a pet, being able to, to have a garden, being able to, have the resources to not have to choose between paying rent and eating, a meal. And you hear all that in the song, but kind of through the narrator is, this child talking about their family experience of going to a restaurant, of, visiting the landlord, and of, longing for, for a pet and a garden, and, and a happy family. And so, and it reminded me so much of one day, one year, City Life was participating in this longstanding Jamaica Plain tradition, the Wake Up the Earth parade. Every May 1st, I believe Ed was one of the founders of this community festival, which commemorates the victory of our community decades ago, and a generation ago, over urban renewal, which was set to just not. So a lot of displacement had already happened in the corridor that's now the where we have public transportation. The Orange Line runs along it. We have a public park. We have a public bike lane, the Southwest Corridor Parkway. And so we have all those wonderful public resources that that make Jamaica Plain, now a very attractive place for people who who have the money to throw around, to buy condos for $670,000 or whatever the one next door to me just sold for. But this was a victory that was won because it was supposed to be an interstate highway running through our neighborhood and bisecting it and creating pollution and privatizing for cars and fossil fuels that that corridor in our neighborhood. So this festival is held annually, and there's a big parade, and so City Life was marching in it as a community organization. And so as we were marching along, we shout our slogans about housing as a human right and this and that, and then it's kind of a long route and you have to stop and wait for traffic and all that. And so we got to saying, well, why don't we sing something? And there were a number of Spanish speaking tenants that were in the group that I was with, and somehow we started noodling around with the farm workers kind of anthem, De Colores, which many folks may know. And so me and a tenant leader called Domingo Franco, he's not even Mexican American, he's Dominican, but anyway, so we were thinking how we could kind of put some new lyrics to it that talked about our housing struggle. So I'll share that. And so the original song is, de colores se visten los campos en la primavera, de colores. And it's talking about the beauty of the world and agricultural, life. And so ours, we put some new words to it. So it goes, if I can remember, peleamos por nuestros hogares y nuestras familias. Peleamos por nuestros mascotas y nuestros jardines. Peleamos por el derecho humano de tener donde vivir. Y por eso los grandes luchadores de muchos colores se unen aquí. Por eso los grandes luchadores de muchos colores se unen aquí. And so that means we are fighting, it's not going to rhyme in English. We are fighting for our homes and for our families. We are fighting for our pets and for our gardens. We are fighting for the human right to have somewhere to live. And to do that, the great fighters of all different colors join together right here, right here. To do that, the great fighters of all different colors join together right here. And it's just something that really struck me, how this song, as we, figured out how we were going to adjust it, when we say fighting for our homes and fighting for our families, that's kind of generic, but we were thinking of particular fights that we'd been in, particular, maybe eviction blockades where we'd, where we'd protected someone's home from the sheriffs coming in and evicting them, or and in certain cases, there were cases where folks were like, there was there was a case where there was a family that was so heartrending to see that their therapy dog had to, they had to give it up and give it to a shelter because of being displaced. And there was another home where it was a beautiful, beautiful garden that this, woman had tended in the 10 years that she lived there, and that, she'd had to move. So these lyrics represent different, different real stories of individuals. And there's just such a strong connection there to, the song that Dean was sharing. Okay, well, so you've asked me here to talk about housing justice and about the assertion that housing is the cure in this time of pandemic that we're in. So I will go ahead and share a few things here on my screen. A moment. Okay, hopefully I can manage this. And so as I was saying, I asked City Life if we could arrange to have a current tenant leader speak with us, and it seems like she may not have been able to join us today. But so I wanted to share at least some pictures of what folks are going through in Boston. And so this is Linda Wiggins and Rosalind Johnson, I think, who are leaders, longtime leaders with City Life. I remember them from back when I worked there, and they are longtime residents of Boston, folks who work for our state government, or maybe as educators, and who are valued members of the community. And their landlord, a corporate landlord called Advanced Property Management, started buying up a lot of multifamily housing, apartment buildings in Hyde Park and Mattapan area, several years ago, and has just been on this wave of gentrification that we're, going through in Boston, as in many cities. And so, I believe Rosalind is actually a union member at her work, and you can see her here leading the crowd and in a rally that is speaking out. And there's a banner behind her that's not enlarged, but the words spell out eviction-free zone. And so one of the wonderful things about City Life is it develops people's leadership, and it brings together people who have maybe experience in other parts of their lives to develop them into leaders that can fight for housing and against displacement, and rally together their neighbors and build tenant associations and rally together the larger community and have people come out, physically on the streets if necessary, or have people do virtual electronic, call-in actions or petitions, have people put aside their fear of engaging in the legal system, and have the courage to stand up for make the argument that no fault evictions are unjust, are inhumane, they're against public health, and that we're gonna defend our rights. We're not going to go quietly. And so that's the example that working with these strong women, taught me when I was working at City Life. And so these are tenants of advanced property management who are organizing, that you see in the picture, and going back years. And so we had hoped to have a current advanced property management tenant who had beat a no fault eviction case, and today, but we're gonna just look at some of the arenas of battle, the different fronts of the battle. So you saw them out on the street. Probably it was protesting in front of the offices, in the last picture, in front of the offices of the landlord, calling on the community to stand with them and to say, shame on these landlords who want to come in and evict a paying tenant, no fault, without any reason, just because they probably want to propose a rent increase, or they just want to get in, a higher paying tenants. Then over here you can see almost, I don't know if it's a prayer circle perhaps that's being led here, but in the center, you can see Ronel Ramy, who's bilingual Haitian Creole and English speaking community organizer at City Life, that he's currently works there. And in the red hat, Steve Meacham, the longtime coordinator of organizing at City Life, and so they're holding hands with other tenants and tenant leaders in the housing court to support people as they go through court processes, contesting the evictions that are filed by these corporate landlords. And then here we're out again with Ronel and tenants at another street action, in the rain, in the snow, and in whatever weather. City Life is definitely famous, for being stalwarts. And what they're asking for here at the local level, is for landlords to negotiate fair contracts with their tenants, and essentially, so don't evict, negotiate is it's a slogan. Right to remain is the hashtag there, and so we believe in the human right to housing. We believe in transforming society so that everyone's needs are met, and there are a lot of steps on the way to get there. And so a first step is to resist any unjust eviction, and have the entire community stand with tenants who are targeted in that way, and call on the landlords to either negotiate a rental contract that will be fair, that will have maybe a cost of living increase over time, but that will not be, doubling people's rents, tripling people's rents, from 1 month to the next, or 1 year to the next, and and pushing out, entire communities because of the economic disparity in this country. This is a way that racism and racial injustice are perpetuated as well, when you allow landlords to just seek the maximum profit. And then some of the larger goals of perhaps getting to the point where, if a landlord isn't able to agree to this or make their business plan work by having fair rental contracts, and predictable and stable multi-year rental contracts, then the argument is, well, they should sell the building to perhaps a nonprofit community development corporation, sell it to the tenants, and they can own it, run it as a cooperative, but take housing out of the speculative market, decommodify it, and turn it from a commodity into a right. And so those are some of the types of actions that the tenant leaders engage in. And so I'll jump from there over to, I think I have a video here where I wanted to, to share tenant leaders in their own words. And so I'll see if I'm able to share this and if people are able to hear it or see it. I know that's a little bit complicated sometimes on these Zoom presentations. So
pandemic still.
So I believe here we're going to see a very recent, I think maybe even from this past week or at least from, in the past few weeks, an in-person action, socially distanced with masks, people standing apart, but people are physically going out, to homes where people are, being put at risk of homelessness by landlords, or in some cases foreclosing banks that are trying to push people out into the danger of who knows, the crowded shelters, or doubled up with family or relatives, and push them into unsafe conditions just to make a buck. And so here we'll see, I think maybe for about, I thought I'd play like maybe 3 minutes or something. We'll hear from the organizer, Antonio Ennis, who himself was a homeowner in foreclosure and was a member of the, City Life's membership before coming on staff and becoming a leader and helping other folks to defend their homes. And then he's going to be describing why they're there, what the ask is. They're out there appealing to the neighborhood and to the public, because they're being filmed, and how are they asking us to stand with their neighbors and be neighborly and show love to our neighbors. And the residents of the house will speak also. So I'll start here about 2 minutes in.
Caregiver for the previous owner. Previous owner unfortunately passed away. Right when the former owner passed away, they signed the house over to the new landlord, pretty much giving it to the new landlord. So the new landlord, guess what the new landlord wants to do? $1 million question. Who can answer that? What do you guys think the new landlord wants to do? Flip it, get out so I can get more money. And when the new owner wants that action to happen, they don't care about anybody's well-being. So that's what we're facing right now. We're facing a landlord who wants to evict both of these families to charge higher rents. These families are up to date on their payments of rent, so it's a no-fault eviction. I'm gonna let the families come up, and I want you to hear from them. I'm an organizer. My name is Antonio Ennis. I'm a community organizer at City Life Vida Urbana. City Life has been around for 47 years. Yeah. City Life has been around for 47 years fighting these fights. And I came along 10 years ago with my own issue, was able to learn the methods here at City Life and how to fight back. And I was able to win my house back. And I said, you know what? I like what's going on here. I'm going to stick around and I'm going to empower some other people, and I'm going to help people that I know are scared. And this is my community. I can walk home from here. Right. And so I'm not going to learn what I learned and keep it a secret and not come out here and fight for my community. So that's why I'm here. And I guess that's why you guys are here too. Right? So give yourselves a round of applause, warm up a little bit. So I'm going to call Stefania up. Come on up, and I want you to hear from her, because this is her fight. This is her situation. And also Gene, this is his fight. This is his situation. But it's very important for them to know that even though it's their situation right now, tonight, it's all of our situations, because next week, tomorrow, next month, it could be any one of us. So please give Stefania a round of applause. Here you go. And for social distancing techniques. Trying to make it easy to hear.
Hello, everyone. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I'm Stefania Incision. I've been living here for 9 years, and Jane, we've been living for like 12 years, 13 years, I'm sorry. And so we've been good tenants, paying rent on time with no problem. And recently, the previous landlord passed away, and
hold up, mic up, Chief.
Lady that used to take care of the previous landlord took over without any documentation, and saying that she's taking over and that she wanted to increase the rent in July. And that was it. And she spoke to me, and I said, okay.
Yes, speak up, honey. They can't hear you.
Give us a microphone, please.
Can you hear? Yeah. Yes, now she wanted to increase her rent in July, and I spoke to her and I said it wasn't a good time right now. It's not like I'm refusing, but I just need some time because I was affected by the virus. So I need some time, and she agrees. And then later on in November, after I got a letter saying that I need to quit within 30 days. And that was it. I didn't know what to do. Not until I did my research. And I found out about City Life. And I met and I spoke to a great person, which is Steve. And ever since, he's been helping, supported, and I've been feeling better because before I didn't know what to do. And I've been going to meeting every Tuesday, me and Jen. And that's why we're here today. So we can win this, and we believe we're gonna win.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So I know the audio and video is a little rough there out in that little clip of a street protest that I was showing there. But I really wanted folks to hear the words of people who are in this fight right now, and bring that into my presentation. And so how can we, let me go off screen share just for a moment and then I'll come back on. So this is a moment where, normally when I'm talking about these issues, I would try and engage with, in the little community of faith and of neighbors that we're in here. How can we respond to this? What is this moment calling us to do? And so City Life, it's a very powerful organization, but there are many organizations all around the country that are trying to attack this, and all around our state that are trying to attack this, and all around our city. City Life is not the only organization that deals with housing issues. So it can seem overwhelming, or it can seem very I guess technical sometimes, and if I'm not a housing lawyer, how could I help my neighbor? Or if I'm don't follow all this policy, how would I possibly know what to do? This is terrible that in a pandemic people would have their housing put at risk, but what role can I play? And so I wanted to come here today to highlight these stories of what's going on, that there is at the national level, the CDC has declared a moratorium on evictions in certain circumstances, but that's being challenged by many states, and so that's very incomplete. And then there's action that's happening at the state level. There was a Housing Stability Act, and if you follow City Life on their social media, or if you follow Homes for All, so I guess if I were smart, I would have emailed these links so that someone could put them into the chat in the moment, but maybe we can share them towards the end. Then there's definitely legislative campaigns at the state level to try and get tenants the right of first refusal when houses are sold, to get other protections for tenants, against evictions, and to also protect homeowners when from foreclosure situations, and and then at the local level, we can do a lot just by amplifying this message, just by showing up to an action like that, just by perhaps making a call. There's an action alert list that City Life maintains that allows folks to take the kind of action that's safe for them, that they're able to do to support our neighbors. And they may have demands where we're targeting one of those corporate landlords. We're asking them come to the table and negotiate with these tenants, and you can email them, you can call them, you can help put public pressure, you can amplify any media or social media about these stories, and be a good neighbor and be part of the community, and help keep our community together. And then there may be actions that are called for at the national level, targeting the CDC, the Biden administration, to reinforce the protections that we have at the national level. And depending on where we are in the state legislative cycle, sometimes there are actions where you might call your legislators or be invited to go to visit them or have a rally at the state house to get protections at the state level. So there's always there's always a way that we can really be standing on the side of our communities, and the side of good. And so I guess I'm probably coming close to the end of my time speaking here. Am I getting a time check?
Yeah, got a little longer.
Okay,
It's
great.
fine.
So
Yeah.
I'll go back to the screen share and kind of go through a couple of these things, and then keep on track, and we can, I think there'll be a time to open for questions and have a little bit of a back and forth. But here I wanted to share at the local level, some of these things that we can be involved with. Is that, so this is interesting. So there's in Boston, there's an Office of Housing Stability within the Department of Neighborhood Development. I was working at City Life around the time when that Office of Housing Stability was established. It had to do with demands that base building groups and grassroots groups like City Life and many others were making of the city around the time, I believe, when we had the transition from Mayor Menino to Mayor Walsh, and so there was a chance to put political pressure in these during these campaigns, on the city officials around the displacement that's been going on in Boston over the last, decade at least. First, there was a wave of displacement that tore through in the wake of the foreclosure crisis that hit our country in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and was very active for about 5 years, maybe more, and then once the economy started to come out from that, or at least the part of the economy where not necessarily the working people and folks who were still dealing with high unemployment rates, and those of us that were struggling during that time on Main Street, but anyway on Wall Street, once they recovered, there came this wave of corporate landlords scooping up foreclosed properties, and then trying to buy and flip other properties. And so so City Life has really pivoted and worked a lot with homeowners, but also with tenants. So the housing stability unit within this city government here in Boston came out of demands that the tenant activists made, and so there's a pledge that property owners are supposed to go through. Let's see, where is it? Well, anyway, here it is. So they're supposed to, so if you know, the mayor has, and, you know, the administration has asked landlords, you know, big corporate landlords, to just do the bare minimum, to abide by the eviction moratorium that the CDC has put in place, you know, rather than posing legal challenges and trying to, you know, get away from it, just accept it and you know, and abide by it. Engage with tenants, you know, create a payment plan, you know, rather than using the fact that people may, you know, get behind on their rent, you know, to work with them and accept rental assistance, and rather than jumping to eviction. So this is just a very basic bare minimum. And, you know, there are some landlords who have signed this pledge, and then there are, you know, community development corporations. Here we're seeing, you know, Asian CDC. And then, you know, there are corporate landlords on this list. There are, you know, more community-based, you know, development corporations, nonprofit owners, that, you know, seem to be on, rather than necessarily, you know, many of the corporate landlords. But certainly there's some corporate landlords on here, but I don't see the name Advanced Property Management. So, you know, in the case where a landlord has refused to sign on, then that's a campaign that City Life has going, is to get them to sign on. And so anyway, this is the you know, announcement that since October, there's been this campaign to get landlords to sign on to that pledge and to abide by that pledge. And if they don't, you know, then we're going to picket them. We're going to, you know, accompany their tenants to court, like you saw in the pictures. And, you know, we're going to use all our resources to fight back. And so in some cases, I don't think this has been done. There's been protests at Housing Court. I don't think that we've actually done this here in Boston, but we've definitely been inspired that there are cities where they actually have, you know, shut down Housing Court. And so City Life is well known for, you know, I've been involved in civil disobedience actions where, you know, protesters actually risk arrest by, you know, refusing to leave and trying to blockade a home, you know, from eviction in our neighborhoods, or trying to blockade, you know, a government building like a court from operating to issue the eviction notices. So this is, you know, this is an inspiration. These kind of militant actions, you know, are carefully planned and you know, done on a very strategic basis within City Life, and have not been carried out, you know, recently, but that's, you know, that's a type of on the ground action that can happen. And so, you know, signing up for City Life's, where is it? Take action, signing up for action alerts on City Life's website will definitely, you know, allow you to be connected to these opportunities to stand with each other as neighbors. And, you know, keeping in mind that I found, you know, you can look around online and you can find that you know, research is really showing the growing connection between public health. It's always been, you know, very evident that displacement and eviction, you know, it has a health impact, but now more than ever, you can actually quantify. Yep, here we go. So you see the picture that NPR uses, you know, is of a City Life action, and you can see our shirt in there. This is Carolyn Lomax. She's also a longtime leader who, coincidentally, I actually worked with her at Boston Medical Center in a public health program. I was a community health worker before I became a community organizer with City Life, and I believe that there are, you know, there are actually numbers that you can put to it where researchers, you know, can estimate, you know, these are the numbers of illnesses and deaths that can be linked, you know, to the fact that we are lacking protections against evictions and foreclosures. And so the taking action can look like, you know, signing on to this national coalition that City Life belongs to called Right to the City. You know, they have a whole platform called Housing is the Cure, and they're asking people to sign on, and they have organizations that sign on. I guess down here at the bottom, there's an organizational list, but they're also just asking individuals and collecting signatures. You know, this is a huge issue nationally, and you can just see the long line of organizations that have signed on to tell the CDC that we need strong protections against displacement. And so they're looking for also, you know, individuals to sign on. And so I'll be sharing those links. And then at the state level, you can follow, you know, City Life Vida Urbana is here in Boston. And I know that this faith community, Community Church of Boston, includes folks, you know, that sometimes call in from the New England region or from all over. So, you know, Right to the City is it's a national organization if you're anywhere in the US. And then Homes for All Mass is it's a sort of a state formation. They do have a social media presence here. And so, you know, they'll announce actions like, you know, back in October, you know, we can see that they called for an action, and hundreds of people came out and marched on Governor Baker's house. And sometimes they'll call, I think that's out in Swampscott or something. Sometimes they'll call for actions at the State House and sign-ons and call-ins. So these are all ways that stop share. Okay. Yeah. So these are all ways that, you know, we can be involved, and that, you know, we can live out that value that we all share about loving our neighbor. And so now I'm pretty sure I really have run over my time, and I will turn it back to Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Cristina. All right. And we have time before Leah has to run for one more song, I hope. And this is the moment that we talk about these beautiful baskets that we usually pass around the auditorium, but our auditorium is lonely. COVID has driven everybody away, so we have to do it online. The address, if you want to write a check, our street address is in the chat. Also, our website where you can donate by PayPal or by credit card. Leah Morris, thank you so much for joining us today, and I am looking forward to that one more song. And I wrote notes about the other songs and the other people that you mentioned. So please, you are a welcome voice here, and I hope we see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you for allowing me to be part of the gathering today. Thank you, Maria Cristina, for your sharing and your work in your community. And I know that has ripple effects, not just in people's individual lives, but the way that we touch others connects and creates, literally creates the world that we're all living in. So I appreciate you. I appreciated the few minutes we had before gathering to find out that we three have kids in a similar stage of life, and so blessings on all of them and all of us as we continue to do our best. This is a song about that, I suppose, on some level, about choosing what we stand for and what we teach our children and how we live, and letting that be the banner, in a sense, that we walk behind and beneath. The song is called A Dedication. Please feel free to sing with me. As for me and my house, you will find us serving peace. As for me and my house, you will find us serving peace. As for me and my house, you will find us serving peace. Peace for all right now. As for me and my house, you will find us serving truth. As for me and my house, you will find us serving truth. As for me and my house, you will find us serving truth. Truth for all right now. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. Love for all right now. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. Love for all right now. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. Love for all right now. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. Love for all right now. As for me and one more time together, house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. As for me and my house, you will find us serving love. Love for all right now. Thank you.
Give it up for Leah Morris. Thanks for joining us again. Thank you. And she will be signing off because she has another engagement. And so a final goodbye to Leah. Yeah. All right. And we'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments. We have put up several different websites and links in the chat. So check out Right to the City. Check out City Life Vida Urbana. The links are there. And let's see if there's anybody who would like to ask a question. As I scroll through all these people, I will just to say some individual hellos to Tony Toledo. It's great you're here, Tony. Thank you for joining us. To Kevin Devine, Homer Frank, Judy Walcott from up in Marblehead in Gloucester, Joan Livingston, hi Joan, Alvin Foster, Barry Warner, YH Pat, I think that might be Virginia Pratt, but I'm not positive, Ed Imbier, who has helped us so much with our archives. A couple of phone-ins. One is Alan Clemens. I recognize the number, and the other is also, both of these are from Maine. Lenny Shames, a longtime, very active member who has moved to Brunswick, Maine. So welcome everybody, and all the others who are on YouTube joining us as well. Charlie tells me that the YouTube comment function is newly working, and again, thanks to Charlie for all the ways that he helps us put this broadcast out on the air. If you would like to raise your hand and make a comment or say hello, I will scroll through these names. And Ed Imbier, I see your hand is up. Go ahead. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Dean. I just wanted to look into the future for housing. And since we're in a capitalistic society where the highest rate commands what the rental market is, what kinds of measures do you think like the city of Boston should do to make housing more available to like, for instance, the essential workers in Boston, the people who work in the fire department and the food lines and all those places. There's only a small amount of percentage, like in my town, I live outside of Boston, and they only, they claim that they want to have 15% or so housing for seniors and disadvantaged people, but they don't live up to it. I'm not sure. What is it like in Boston, and how can they fix it You know, can they fix it by co-ops, by community housing? What are their thoughts?
That's right. That's right. Yes. So you're talking about forms of decommodified housing, which is the kind of the vision of of people who are working at City Life and many of the people involved in these state and national coalitions that I've mentioned. And it does seem like a very long way to get there from here. And so it's always an interplay between what do you think is really going to make a difference at scale, or what is kind of the root problem that needs to shift, rather than just putting out fires here and there. There's that, and then there's also the interplay between that and what are people being affected by, what do people observe and feel and come to the open meetings that City Life hosts every Tuesday night that were mentioned by the tenants at the rally, that have free legal clinics. Those attract folks that are in crisis, that need help right now. And so there's an interplay between that. And so some of the things that come out of it are looking towards a more long-term solution, and some of them are more just kind of live to fight another day. So the eviction moratorium is kind of that band-aid that we're trying to stitch together, that bandage. And then things like at the state level, we had filed tenant option to purchase legislation, which provides a first right of refusal for tenant buyout, to try and I believe some funding and technical assistance to try and make that a viable option for when housing is changing hands. There's many I guess attempts at anti-flipping laws to put into place. And at the local level, I'm not sure exactly how this works in communities that are in municipalities, outside of Boston, but in the Boston area, so we try and we try and get our mayoral administration and our city councilors to support us as much as they can with things like this pledge, or the Housing Stability Office, and trying to get them to maybe pass vacancy taxes on landlords who get rid of their tenants. And we're all very familiar with this in Jamaica Plain, and even small businesses are affected. There's commercial establishments that were chased out of storefronts in our neighborhood, and then they've been left vacant for 10 years, just speculating on them, and so we try to get citywide ordinances or that kind of intervention, but also even at the sub neighborhood level, there are zoning laws that require hearings about when new buildings are being proposed, and there are neighborhood level planning kind of processes that we can also join our voice in, and say that, as you say, the percentage can be so minimal in terms of what's a landlord needs to a developer needs to build affordable housing. Is it really affordable? And so showing up at those meetings and supporting people who live nearby, or who live in the area and are maybe showing up saying this building is going to affect me because the rents that they're proposing, or the sale prices they're proposing, are so high that now it's going to increase my rent, or people who are being displaced from the neighborhood and can't afford the new housing. For us to show up as allies and say, these are valid concerns. We need a higher percentage of affordable housing here. We need these standards to be matched to the incomes of people in the neighborhood, or people in need. And there's the opportunity to do that very at the local level. We have had some ability to, I think, in Jamaica Plain, change the percentage of affordable housing required in new developments, so that, you know, from the very small neighborhood level of, you know, just sort of showing up to these, you know, zoning meetings that not that many people can take the time to do, you know, on up to advocating for the opportunity to, you know, get more housing off the market by these things like, you know, TOPA's Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, I think. But, you know, it's sort of like what do you call it? Like a worker ownership, like when they enable workers to buy out like a business that's where the owner's retiring or going bankrupt, and they give maybe the workers the first right to. So, you know, so TOPA is kind of like that, but for housing, and that's a policy that we, you know, try to get passed at the bigger level, and, you know, and then certainly also having let's see, I don't know exactly how you can necessarily support as an ally, but having, you know, nonprofit owners, such as the many community development corporations you saw signed on to the anti-eviction, you know, pledge, you know, having them be able to compete to acquire housing. You know, for us in Boston, that meant advocating for a fund, for the city to set aside a fund, like a matching fund, so that community development corporations could make offers, and could actually compete with some of these speculators, to acquire buildings before they get snatched up. And, you know, that may vary city or county by county.
I have a quick question for you, or an observation, and also just a comment to the community. I make very little money on a tiny salary from community church, but I am real estate very wealthy. My parents, my wife's parents both died very young. We got their house and their IRA, and we own a house with no mortgage. And I'm not supposed to, you know, usually people say you're not supposed to divulge your, but you know, it's like, say it out loud. It's about being a white privileged heterosexual male and female between, you know, and those are ridiculous advantages that you are given to be able to derive this incredible personal wealth. And so this brings me to wills. We've been putting it off forever. We had a basic will. It got destroyed. Our house got destroyed in a tree fall, and we were homeless for a year. Not homeless. The insurance company rented a house for us, and blah blah blah. But it was a pain in the neck, and that basic will is under some rubble and got thrown into a dumpster. And so we really are trying to think about getting a serious will together, and I hope that all of you community church members to whom this institution and this community means a lot will do the same, and will include community church in your will. But my question for you, Maria Cristina, is about resources for people who also think that a good bit of assets from an estate should go to some sort of fund that helps people make down payments and helps people who are not of the kind of advantage and privilege that I am to get going on developing equity in their own home.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
also mention this because we are deeply involved in Bob Datilio. I've talked about him already, and he shuffled off this mortal coil with no will, and in a home that is going to be in probate for forever, trying to figure out, and with distant relatives that have to be contacted. It was just a complete mess. So everybody, that's a notice, and not a warning. That's not right. Just an advice. Get your stuff in order. and the question to you, Maria Cristina.
Yeah, and you know what might be an interesting guests to do a presentation at some point in the future, if you haven't had them already, is the someone connected to the Boston Neighborhood Community Land Trust. And I was at their annual meeting last year, and they seem to be, I think moving in a good direction.
I had a good idea. The state taxes, we don't know where that money goes. It just goes into the state. When people die, and Massachusetts has a fairly large one compared to other places. Why don't they take that money and get public ownership of homes, or at least subsidies for homes where somebody could buy into a house? They have to stay there for 20 years or something when they sign on. Something where they have to do that, but at least the money goes. People see the reason.
I mean, you first have to find out where it's going. It might be going to some place.
Maria Cristina was in the middle of her answer.
I bet it doesn't. It just goes to a general budget.
You just have to first find out where it goes. You have to have the facts and not just kind of, well, I guess it does. You don't.
Well, it should go to. It's going to a general budget. It's just distributed.
Maria Cristina, please continue.
Okay. I guess we're putting folks on mute, and so I'll just
Boston Neighborhood.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore, on this issue, and there's an organization called Boston Neighborhood Community Land Trust, and it grew out of something called the Coalition of Occupied Homes in Foreclosure, that 10 or 15 years ago, back when we were confronting that crisis. But it's now its own organization, and community land trusts, like the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative is a very well-known local example, that's a national case study of, creating stability and affordable housing long-term. And so, but I was just going to say that when you're talking about, what individuals, may be able to do with property that they have or resources that they have, I did hear at the Boston Neighborhood Community Land Trust annual meeting that they, they have residents on their properties that were acquired out of foreclosure, and that, preserve people's housing, low-income people that didn't have any way to buy it. And they're also apparently do have some people joining, maybe some folks from Dorchester People for Peace, but there's some people who are joining it in some way where they are, it does have to do with the disposition of their property upon their, passing, that they have planned that it's going to go into this community land trust. And I'm not sure if, what it means for them during their lifetime, but yeah, these are wonderful questions to continue wrestling with as we all, think about how to, how to strengthen our community and how to build our, our being a good neighbor.
Tony Toledo has a question in the chat. What's the reasoning for any landlord to leave a storefront vacant for 10 years?
Right? You shouldn't be able to do that. My dad is from Bolivia, and, I've just I feel like if this was Bolivia, that would be expropriated from you. You couldn't just, I believe that with the constitutional reforms and the Morales administration, that it was, you have to, you have to, if you're not going to live there, you can't, it goes back to the song that you sang in the beginning, that someone's allowed to have their own house, and then they're also allowed to own another property, let alone to just own another property to warehouse it vacant, as a tax write-off or who knows what. But, I think we all know, Hyde Square in Jamaica Plain, Mordecai Levin, it's just, there's a storefront there that's been empty for literally, I think, 15 years, and the building down on Amory, that was where he chased that Bella Luna restaurant out of, right? And then Bikes Not Bombs was one of the small businesses that was in a building on Amory Street that similarly, they evicted artists from their artist studios and small businesses and nonprofits like Bikes Not Bombs, and then it was just left vacant. And now there's a development boom, and probably the building will be redeveloped, but somehow we don't have the policies in place. We don't have a vacancy tax or anything to penalize landlords that hoard these resources that our communities and our storefronts and our business districts need to survive.
Just a little note from YH Pat, who says, "Thank you. I appreciate this weekly program. For your information, I am in Sissepaha territory, also known as North Carolina. Over 30 years ago, I worked with a labor union and comadres in El Salvador. Oh, comadres, yes. Since then, there have been many other struggles, so the breadth and depth of this gathering is quite welcome. Thank you for your work. Adelante." Thanks for that that little greeting, YH Pat. Let's see. There's several other links that have been put up by Maria Cristina and others. Charlie, I see your hand up. Go ahead, Charlie.
Just relaying a question from the YouTube chat is, I actually asked the same thing in the chat, but was Bob Blue the person you were talking about the same as Brother Blue, who used to play in Harvard Square all the time?
No, Brother Blue, we know him well at Community Church. He spoke here a couple of times. Marvelous storyteller. I'm sure Tony could tell you more about Brother Blue. Wonderful, and you can hear some of his stories on YouTube and other places online. His name was Hugh. His real name was Hugh. I can't remember his last name. Brother Blue. No, this is Bob Blue, second grade school teacher and songwriter. Let's see. Kevin Devine, go ahead and unmute yourself. Do you have a question? Kevin, you need to unmute yourself. Well, we'll go on from Kevin. Is there anybody else? We're getting near the end. A couple more people maybe we could chime in with a question.
Okay, there it is. I'm here.
There you go, Kevin. A question from.
Okay. No, it's just that I lived in Boston in Hyde Park a few years ago, early 70s, and now I live outside of Boston. And I just want to say, I think my question for Maria Cristina is that you mentioned in your presentation that some kind of economic development was happening in Mattapan and in Hyde Park, where I grew up, and I just want to know what is that? What does that mean? Could you answer that? Answer that question as to what's going on regarding the development of housing in Hyde Park specifically.
Okay. So I think one of the things that has happened is that the community there, actually in almost a parallel to what we were making reference to in the history of Jamaica Plain, and being able to community organizing, exerting enough power to change the face and the landscape of our neighborhood, and to secure public resources, rather than this privatization that the highway would have brought. So in a similar way, Hyde Park and Mattapan fought for access, to public transportation, which was, I think, much more limited to bus transportation. But there is there's a commuter rail train that runs through the neighborhood, but it would just go to the suburbs and it wouldn't really stop in. So so I believe transportation equity, activists were pressing to have local stops. So then there was the Fairmount line, I think they call it, that created more access to public transportation, linking these neighborhoods and downtown Boston. And so that's a public amenity that neighborhood activists had fought for in terms of equity. Hyde Park and Mattapan are areas that have are economically not the powerful and abundant areas of the neighborhoods, other neighborhoods of Boston, or the center of the city. And so it seems like that victory of gaining this public resource, that the way that our system is set up, that allows for the real estate industry to kind of translate that into their private profit, because then, you know, the value of buildings near these new public transit stops, you know, goes up, and landlords will sell them. And so there's a landlord called Advanced Property Management that acquired a lot of multifamily apartment buildings in that area, you know, over the last 5 to 10 years, you know, possibly some of it in the wake of the foreclosure crisis, like I was describing. There was kind of a transfer of a lot of properties from individual owners who lost their homes, their single family homes, or their, you know, duplexes or three deckers, you know, to foreclosing banks. And then the only entities with the ability to acquire them are usually, you know, investors, absentee investors. And so there was that, but also, you know, I think there was multifamily properties that also turned over as the economy, you know, picked up post foreclosure crisis. And so over the last, you know, 5 to 10 years, there's definitely been a lot of activism, a lot of tenant organizing in Hyde Park, Mattapan, especially along that transit corridor, to you know, to organize active tenant associations, to link them together. You know, they may be, you know, one may be in Hyde Park, one may be in Mattapan, but if it's the same landlord, you know, to try and create a citywide tenants union to bargain and say, you know, we fought for access to transit so that, you know, we could have equity, we could have equal access to these jobs downtown. And so we're, you know, we're not going to allow you to come in and just tell us, you know, we want $400 more a month, you know, or get out. You know, we want to have, you know, a 5-year lease with you where we'll pay, you know, a 3% or 5% increase per year. But, you know, that's fair, you know, but we're not going to let you push us out. So that's the kind of struggle that's been going on that I've observed. And again, I'm a resident of Jamaica Plain and have worked somewhat in these neighborhoods in the past, but you know, unfortunately wish that we could have had a tenant leader here to really give you the, you know, the real the real, you know, up to date, you know, word on the street. But that's as much as I could say.
Okay. Well, folks, we're getting to the end here.
You would make it disappear too fast.
Joan?
Well, usually just everybody disappears. We've been just chatting a little bit, and I said to someone, the basic problem is capitalism. Someone who comes from Bolivia understands community. For the music, I brought out a Lakota drum. There was community before conquest here. And one of the things the Europeans wanted was to take what was sacred to the people living here and commodify it. Real estate, slaves, people as property. The whole idea of ownership was foreign to Native people, and they came with Bibles. And I'm feeling bad because of Evo was my favorite president. He got cooed. And they always said the first indigenous president of Bolivia, first Bolivian president of Bolivia, non-European. Right? The landowners always win, right? The campesinos lose. I think that capitalism is, I have a very good friend who was a guest at the church, a peace warrior, Brian Wilson, and he's moved to Nicaragua. Unfortunately, he was there during an NED uprising, but he still was able to connect with us. And he had visited Nicaragua many times and saw the pace of life was different. And he hates what he calls AWOL, the American way of life, consumerism. Not all of us spend all our time watching TV and saying, oh, I need that. But it's definitely cultural, right? That instead of there's enough for everyone, you know, that basically everything was socialist and there was matriarchy. It gets turned around. We have patriarchy, hetero, you know, cisgender, you know, and, you know, if there was natural sexuality, all kinds without labels, then they come, it's like Adam, it's like, that was upside down thinking, you know, to cut into the earth of Mother Earth, my mother, why would you cut into the breast? And always on, you know, people talk about third world countries. The US renders them shithole, but there are third world areas all over this nation, the ghetto, the barrio, the reservation, out of sight, out of mind, right? And I think so every now and then the media sort of rediscover inequality, And of course, the people who are in the media are, privileged people. And sometimes they're recently doing it in black and white, which is leaving out a lot of slaveries, the coolies who didn't have a Chinaman's chance, First Nations people, alien Irish. And you have the reason for the American Revolution, which wasn't one, was that England was moving toward abolition and said, stop stealing native land. The first thing the white supremacists did was pass an ordinance allowing, because they were all land speculators, was real estate. We get to take the land since we said, shut up, George.
Hey, Joan, we gotta scoot.
Yeah. I'm used to
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to say that if you want to hear more about Nicaragua,
yes.
March 21st, Ben Norton is a fabulous journalist, lives in Nicaragua. If you're familiar with him from the Gray Zone and from Moderate Rebels, Ben Norton, many other wonderful programs coming up here. W.B. Du Bois address on February 28th with Margaret Kimberly. Regina Robinson is next week speaking about education and COVID from Cambridge College. A bunch of great players. Rod McDonald is going to be with us next week. Sharon Katz of the Peace Train, South African musician, and Soli Canto from Puerto Rico and New Mexico. A bunch of great stuff. Look into our newsletter. If you haven't gotten it, let me know and we'll get it to you either by paper or by the virtual method. Mary Wilson passed away, and I want to end with a song from Mary Wilson. I don't know except the refrain, which is so much for this moment, which is someday we'll be together. Someday we'll be together. See you next week, folks. Someday we'll be together in this lonely auditorium. Someday we'll be together hand in hand and hugs and hugs. Someday we'll be together. Thank you, Maria Cristina. Someday we'll be together. And Tilly Ruth and Kevin and Judy Walcott and Homer Frank and Ed and Beer. Thank you so much. And someday we will be together. Yes, we will. Thank you, Alvin Foster, and all of you who have joined us today. And we will see you soon. We have a retreat coming up March 13th. It's a Saturday. We want to get your input about this building on the subject of real estate and how we're going to use our top floors. And other events I'll mention in March, a screening of Gaza Fights for Freedom, which is Abby Martin's footage about that great March of Return, which happened in 2018. Not easy footage to watch, but we will be commemorating Rachel Corrie's anniversary of Rachel Corrie's killing with the showing of that film. Lots more. So stay in touch, do good work, and we'll see you all very soon. Love you dearly, every one of you. Join us, get in touch with us about becoming a member. And that's all, folks. Meeting at the building is over.
Thank you.
Now.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Hasta luego. Ciao. Arrivederci.